my loves. It's your girl, Kat, and welcome to the very first episode of the You Grow Gurl Podcast. Woohoo! That's right, that's right, that's right. I am so excited to take you all on this journey with me. I cannot wait to share all the things that are going to be happening on this show. Today, we are kicking off our very first episode. And what better way to do it during Black History Month? I am so excited to celebrate Black History Month, and being able to launch this podcast has truly been a gift and a blessing. And I'm so thankful to God that He gave me this opportunity to be able to have these specific conversations around uplifting, encouraging, supporting, praying, and all of the things that are going to be happening here on this show. So, as we kick off today's very first episode, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone who pushed me, who prayed for me, who encouraged me to move forward in what it was that I should have been doing, which is this right here. I think oftentimes we dream about the things that we could potentially do, but never really set a goal to accomplish that dream that we want to happen for ourselves. So, y'all, right now, I am so excited to truly be living a dream come true by bringing this podcast to life for you all. God gave me a voice and He told me, you have so much more to give than what you're doing right now. And in fact, in that moment when He was talking to me, I even started to question, am I good enough to do this? I know that I have a big voice because my daytime job is I public speak, but will anybody even listen? But what He did tell me is that whether you have 100 people or one person, it doesn't even matter. Speak from your heart, tell your story because her story means so much to many. And so, as we go on this ride of learning and growing together, I'm so excited to bring my authentic, best version of me to the table for all of you. Now, will there be times where I'm going through and life's going to be lifing? Absolutely, because I will be remiss if I didn't say that I'm going to have some good days, I'm going to have some bad days, but I plan on bringing that realness to you so you can see all of the things that I've been dealing with and the heaviness of just balancing being a mother, being a wife, being a professional, being a friend, and also a peer, as well as my spiritual walk as well. So, as we go into this episode, I really want you guys to know about how the You Grow Girl podcast came to life. Okay. So, I've always dreamed, as I mentioned earlier, of having a space to be able to reach women. Okay. And when I say that, I mean, how do I use my voice to uplift and encourage women who may feel a bit discouraged about stepping out on faith and doing something uncomfortable? Because we all know that when we are in an uncomfortable space or have to do uncomfortable things, we really won't just go because we would rather stay in that comfortable setting because that is where we feel more at ease when it comes to the work that we all know and love and we do. So I remember probably about, it's been 3 years now since I transitioned into a new position on my job. I was so comfortable with being in that position. In fact, I probably would have stayed there if it wasn't for the love of God and Him saying you need to move. It's trying to step into a new season in your life, or a mentor saying, hey, it's time for you to transition into something new. And so, for you mamas out there, we know that we have a lot of competing priorities. I think about you all stepping out on faith and doing the things that are most uncomfortable. It's, where do you even start? So, for myself, I found myself struggling with consistency. Y'all, it's really hard, honestly, for me to even talk about that, because when you see someone and they look like they have it all together, but yet they lack certain things in them. And so we all have these imperfections, and sometimes we are willing to admit that we actually do have those things. But in my life, one of the things that I knew that I was lacking was consistency. And so, in order for me to have this podcast, I knew that I would need to be consistent in all the things that I needed to be and do for this podcast to actually work. So, as I was going on this journey with preparing, I would write down notes every day. I've got about 3 to 4 notebooks of just notes of what I would want this space to even look like, down to the type of fabric that I wanted my chairs to look like, because I'm thinking of comfort, to the way I wanted my microphones to look, whether I wanted to have more of a lapel type of microphone to obviously a standing microphone, or what type of lighting would I have, right? And so, as I share all those things, I share that to say this, is that I have been thinking about all these things in my mind for years, but never imagined that I would actually be here in this space. So, girl, let me tell you, that uncomfortable feeling that you have right now in the pit of your stomach, listening to me saying, but that's you, Kat. Like, I'm not there yet. I don't feel the need to step into this new season of me. What I would tell you is this, is that don't stay there too long. A mentor of mine shared this with me last year, early on in 2024. In fact, I believe it was the end of 2023. She said, you're really quiet these days, Kat. And that's not normally who you are. Because if you know me, and you're watching this, you know that I could talk a lot. I'm very animated when it comes to things. But what she said was, you don't seem like yourself, but don't stay there for too long. And she said it multiple times, to the point where I said, I got it. I understand. I hear you. This is something I don't want to do. I don't want to stay here too long. But God, how do I get out of this quietness that I have right now? And this was only affecting me through my work, not at home. And so, as I started to pray about what I wanted, the podcast to look like, then I said to God, if it is something that I should be doing, then you will give it to me. You will give it to me. And so, with that, the birth and the inception, I would say the inception of the You Grow Gurl podcast started to flourish. And all the things that I needed to focus on in terms of getting ready to launch this podcast, I started to align with my purpose, or started to align with my purpose. So I started praying, and I started to ask God to reveal to me how to do this. And so I got really, really disciplined in my word of God. I started to cry out to God to ask Him, if this is your will, then I know it will be done. And I got back in church really, really tough because I knew that I could not do any of the work that I'm going to be doing without Him. But this is what He did tell me. He says, you can't give me half of you. You've got to give me all of you. And I said, okay, I'm going to commit to that. And in that very moment, I said to myself, okay, starting January 1, 2025, I am going to ensure that I remove the things that no longer serve me, whether that be the little things that I shouldn't be doing, whether that be people in my life, whether that be decisions that I have to make. I have to start to make room for consistency and alignment to ensure that when I do launch the podcast, that I have clarity and discernment that this is what I should be doing. Now, I'm going to keep it 100. I, I didn't even have a name. And I was like, how am I going to start a podcast and I don't even have the name of the podcast? People would ask me, like some of my friends would be like, girl, what's your podcast going to be called? And I'm like, to be honest with you, I'm still trying to figure it out. But through intermittent fasting daily with my church, this year is a year of OMG, obedience, manifestation, and glory. We are focused on daily prayers, making sure we're reading our word. I was sticking to it, okay? And I was saying, God, help me. Like, I don't know what the name is going to be called, but I know that you will give it to me. One thing that I also didn't know is when it would actually launch. So I would say coming soon or coming in February but I didn't have a date yet. And what God told me is that I'll let you know when it's time. I'll share with you the date for you to launch it. And I said, okay, Lord, I'm on my marks and get set. I was a track runner back in the day. And you'll hear about that in later episodes. But I'm just going to wait on your go because I'm just the vessel, right? And so with that being said, I prayed on the name. What am I doing? And one thing that came out clear through a lot of my prayers was you're growing. You're growing. And I said, you know what? You're right, girl. You grow. You grow, girl. And so that was how the You Grow Gurl podcast was thought of and brought to life. It was all through the power of prayer and really making room for the space and making sure that I have the capacity to be able to even do this. But more importantly, that word that I brought up earlier is consistency. Consistency is key to all things that you do in your life. And baby, that is one thing, like I told y'all, that was a little bit of a struggle. So, our word and our mantra on my work team is consistency. And so I said, what better way to focus on consistency is also bringing it to my personal work that I'm doing. So this week, here's my challenge. As you all greet this new week with gratitude, I want you to think about your consistency around the things that you are doing or the things that you would like to do. How can you start to align your purpose and your priorities with the things that you're trying to accomplish? Because remember, your greatest, I would say, not even enemy, is your greatest challenge sometimes is our own selves. We fight with ourselves more than we fight with others because we know ourselves better than we know others. And so sometimes we get into this tussle with ourselves, and in our minds, we start to believe that we cannot do the things that our heart desires. So, girlfriend, let me tell you, I love you and I appreciate you. So make sure that at the end of this week, you take time out for yourself. You write down the things that your heart desires. You take those dreams and you turn them into goals and make actionable steps for you to get there. I appreciate you all joining me for the very first episode of the You Grow Gurl podcast. And I look forward to seeing you all next time on episode 2, where we bring my bestie, Jaji, onto the show to talk about her life and her journey during the top of Women's History Month. So, with that being said, I hope you all grow and have a great week. I love you. I love you. Bye now. Take care.